Coming up on Tech News Today, the cord cutters are rising. Also, does Lenovo really want to buy Blackberry? What's up with that? And an app that'll save you gas money. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, March 12th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by The Resumator. Streamline hiring and increase traffic to job postings with The Resumator, the hiring solution used by today's fastest-growing companies. For a free 30-day trial and 15% discount, go to theresumator.com/TNT. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPad, Samsung Galaxy, and other smartphones are worth at Gazelle.com. And by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow, send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile by Citrix. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Maya Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, starting each time with the top 10 stories of the day in the news pong world thing. Fuse. There's the fuse. The more things change. Back in September 2011, Microsoft said Adobe's Flash was bad for battery life, bad for security, reliability, and privacy, and decided not to allow Flash in IE10 in the tiled interface of Windows 8. Well, flash forward to yesterday, Microsoft started allowing Flash by default in IE10 with only blacklisted sites disabled. Microsoft says it wants more sites to, quote, just work in IE10. I'm reading that to say, please buy the Surface tablet and Windows 8. For God's sakes, please.
Yesterday, U.S. National Security Advisor Thomas Donnellan said that Chinese hacking is a key point of concern. He said that U.S. businesses are speaking out about their concerns of cyber intrusions emanating from China. Chinese officials have denied any government involvement with a number of attacks and have claimed that many of its nation sites have been attacked by those in the United States.
Pinterest hasn't attacked anybody, but they have reached the stage in their life when it thinks it might eventually want to make money. Introducing Pinterest Web Analytics, new tools that show business visitors counts, tracks interactions with companies' pages. Service is free, but Greg Sterling, senior analyst at Opus Research, told Reuters he thinks it's a pretty clear step towards monetization.
Like, you ever wonder what your Facebook likes say about you? Well, you listen up. A study from Cambridge University says that your Facebook likes are building a picture of who you really are. Researchers were able to determine personality type, political views, sexual orientation, gender, and even drug use based on Facebook likes from 58,000 Facebook users. The researchers used information available publicly. A goal of the study is to raise awareness of the kind of data people are putting out there.
Google let folks in Austin get a little more look behind the glass, if you will. At a South by Southwest Project Glass developer panel, Google's developer advocate Timothy Jordan showed off apps from the New York Times, Evernote Sketch, and Path. All of them make use of Google's API, and all share a similar Google Now-like look called Timeline Cards.
Are you ready for Lenovo Blackberry 2 Electric Boogaloo? Because yesterday, Lenovo's CEO told a French financial newspaper that Lenovo may be thinking of buying Blackberry. This is the second mention of a potential Blackberry deal by a Lenovo executive this year. On the news of the possibility that Lenovo is thinking about Blackberry, Wall Street responded, Blackberry shares rose 14%.
Is Electric Boogaloo the new, this time it's personal?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been around for a while.
It seems to have made a comeback.
Yeah.
Anyway,
call it a
old-timey
comeback.
Linux types still reach through their beards to grab their hearts when they hear Microsoft and open source in the same breath. But it's a new world, folks. Get used to it. Microsoft posted 22 samples of Kinect source code under an Apache 2.0 license, including face tracking, a skeletal viewer, and slideshow gestures. Old-timey Linux types hear that news and go, bah, Apache license.
A new study from Nielsen says that 5 million people no longer watch television via the traditional means like cable or satellite. Back in 2007, the number was 3 million. These cord cutters are getting their content via their mobile devices and computers. For 36% of those surveyed, cost was the number one reason to change their viewing habits. Number 2 was lack of interest at 31%.
Interestingly, in life, that's the part they left out. Comixology learned this weekend that with great free offers comes great server load. A limited time deal gave away more than 700 free digital copies of first issues in the Marvel's iconic comics series. The response brought the entire Comixology service to its knees. Like Krypton... Wait, no, can't use that. Wrong publisher. Anyway, paying customers couldn't read their cloud comics, so Marvel has put the free offer on hold while they call in Bandwidth Man or some other Stanley creation.
Bullet to Captain America, actually. Netflix just introduced its ISP Speed Index. The front page features 8 countries in which ISPs offer the highest and lowest speeds for Netflix streaming. If you dig deeper into Netflix Index, you'll see a ranking of ISPs by speed. In the U.S., Google Fiber offers Netflix streaming at a bitrate of 3.35 megabits per second.
All right, this episode of Tech News Today brought to you by The Resumator. This is a way for you to make it easier to hire people. If you're a growing business, and until our government squashes our economy, we got a lot of growing businesses out there. You're a hiring manager and an HR professional. You know how hard it is to have everything all over the place. You want to reduce your time spent hiring. You want to get those people in and start working. So check out The Resumator. You can reduce time spent on hiring tasks by 50% and reduce cost per hire by as much as 85%. Try replacing that HR inbox or that applicant tracking system with one end-to-end solution. Helps you with sourcing. You can attract applicants to your jobs just using your website, or you can implement free job boards, social media connections. Helps you screen applicants. You can rank, track, discuss their resumes, identify those top qualified applicants, bring them in, interview them, schedule meetings with the candidates, all in the Resumator. And finally, it helps you hire them too. You can use it to collaborate and compare to select the best person for the job. Manage the flow of incoming applicants, the pre-screening process, and communications with candidates all in one place so you can focus on the other aspects of your business, like your business, instead of spending time organizing resumes and files. If you're a business owner, hiring manager, or HR professional, and you want to save time, money, and increase traffic to your job postings, check out The Resumator. We use it right here at Twit, and lots of companies like Instagram have got off the ground with it. For a 30-day free trial and 15% discount, go to theresumator.com/TNT. That's a 15% discount because you're listening to TNT. After the free trial, the base package is $99 per month, which covers 5 open jobs and 5 users, and they offer other packages as well. And we thank the Resumator for their support of Tech News Today. All right, Sarah Lane had a little flight mix-up, so she's not with us today, but thankfully filling her place, not really filling her place, but our guest today, Jeff Kanata, co-host of Always On with Molly Wood on CNET, and proprietor of a very successful Kickstarter bringing back a show. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man. And congratulations again on the Kickstarter. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's been pretty overwhelming. And if anybody wants to find out about it, you can go to jeffkanata.com. There's a post about it, and check it out.
Keeping the spirit of TRS alive.
I'm doing my best. But you're making a comic book. Why didn't I know about that until now?
Well, I can't. Speaking of Kickstarters, not to get too pluggy off the top of the show, but right, Len Peralta and I launched a comic book today. Very excited
so
about that.
rad,
Awesome.
dude. I had no idea that
I
you
just
were
scribble
an
things in the
comic
margins,
writer.
and he makes amazing art. That's what makes that work. So
I can't wait to check it out. That's awesome.
Let's kick off the show talking about Lenovo and Blackberry. Lenovo thinking about Blackberry. What?
Yep.
Sounds dirty.
Once again, okay, so on March 11th, this is yesterday, the Lenovo CEO, Yang Yun-King, told Les Echos, a French financial newspaper, that his company may be interested in acquiring BlackBerry. Now, here's the quote. He said, it could, quote, possibly make sense, but first I need to analyze the market and understand what exactly the importance of this company is. Okay, so on that news, BlackBerry shares rose 14%, that he's thinking about it. Now, I'm going to give you a timeline of what's been going on with Lenovo and RIM. Back on January 24th, back when it was called RIM, there was the Lenovo CFO saying, we're thinking about RIM as a purchase. Then on the 28th, Lenovo said that our CFO was speaking broadly about M&A strategy in a recent interview and was just denying the concept that they were going to actually actively pick up RIM at the time. On the 30th, RIM becomes BlackBerry, introduces BlackBerry 10. They got the Z10, the Q10. Jeff, the last time this thing popped up was January. Have things changed enough for either company that this seems like this deal would make more sense or less sense?
Well, I can tell you that when I went to Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, I got a chance to use the BlackBerry Z10 and got my hands on the Q10. And boy, was I underwhelmed with the Z10. And I think maybe the keyboard itself will be buying point for fans of BlackBerry for the Q10. But I think RIM is in trouble just based on the fact that that's the phone that's supposed to save the company. And my personal anecdotal experience with it is really, really disappointing. So maybe it is time that they, had some sugar daddy come in and infuse the company with some new energy and new money. I don't know.
Tom, does this seem like an overblown quote, or does it matter because it's the CEO of Lenovo saying something as broad as this?
Yeah, it's funny, right? If you're at a private party with the CEO of Lenovo and you kind of know the guy and you're like, what about BlackBerry? And he says, well, it could possibly make sense. I just need to figure out the importance of the marketplace. Nothing, you're like, oh, yeah, that's a sensible response. Like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. When you're out there talking to the press and you say that, you got to understand that you're the CEO of Lenovo and you just let slip that you're even thinking about it. Market's going to react crazy. Should they react? I don't know. Maybe that's a larger issue. But CEOs usually don't say anything. So the fact that he let anything past his lips is significant. What he means by doing that, I have no idea.
And it seems oddly counterintuitive. If you're trying to buy a company and you're causing the stock price to go up,
right,
you're going to have to pay more money for that company. So I'm not sure if they are seriously considering this or this is just an idea of Lenovo. I mean, the idea of them buying IBM's PC business years ago sounded ridiculous. Why would IBM ever sell? Who would buy that? And could they make it successful? But Lenovo seems like they would be a good fit for, or BlackBerry would be a great fit for something like Lenovo because it's a serious kind of device. But Jeff, do you think that would run into any like regulatory issues if a Chinese company owned the device the government loves to use? Would they just immediately lose all their enterprise users?
That's a really interesting question. I would be very curious to see what happened in that respect because you're right. It is the government's favorite phone, and to have a Chinese company own it might be a little scary, especially from a national security standpoint. That's a really interesting question. I'd be curious to see if there were any repercussions in that direction.
Yeah, a lot of governments are going to be watching who buys BlackBerry. Maybe that's what he's doing here. Maybe he's dropping out a line to say, I want to see what kind of reaction I get in my back channels when I dangle this fish out here. I'm not going to say anything that gets me in trouble with any kind of securities exchange commissions around the world, but I'll see if anybody comes back and warns me, no, you can never do that, or if you do that, it's going to have to be done this way. It could be a toe in the water.
It could be. It seems like it could be an interesting deal if it happened. The regulatory stuff has me a little concerned.
Yeah. Let's talk about that Nielsen release. This actually came out March 8th, the fourth quarter 2012 cross-platform report. But if you didn't take the time to put in all your personal information and download it, Nielsen put out another press release today touting the fact that just above 5 million households now don't watch traditional television. That's up from just over 2 million in 2007. Now, they call them no TV or zero TV households, but it doesn't mean they don't have a television set. It means that they don't get cable or broadcast TV. They watch video. They just watch it other ways. Less than 5% of all U.S. households make up this number, so it's not a large number yet, and it's about half made up of people younger than 35. So it's a very young audience, which means it's probably going to grow. A few other numbers from this. More than 75% actually have a television. So like I said, most of them do. 67% still watch video content. That means like, I don't know, a third of them don't actually watch any video at all. I kind of find that hard to believe. 37% of those who said they are a zero TV household watch their videos on a computer. 16% watch them on a television that is connected to the internet. 8% on smartphones and 6% on tablets. Found that kind of interesting. Tablets below smartphones. Maybe just not as many people have tablets. And 48% watch through subscription services. Now, a third of them said cost was the primary factor. That means 2/3 of them did not say cost was the primary factor for cutting the cord. All of these numbers.
Those people have Time Warner.
Yeah. All of these numbers are growing, and they indicate a trend. But are we at the sea change yet? How significantly should we take these numbers? What do you think, Jeff?
I think that it's very telling that Nielsen, in their infinite hubris, even calls this the zero TV number, because it's so not zero TV. I'm sure some of those people, as we saw with the breakdown of the statistics, some of those people have zero TV. But I would argue that a large number of the people that they call zero TV are probably watching a heck of a lot more TV than anybody else. They're just not watching it through traditional cable. And I think to conflate the idea of cutting your cable cord with not watching television is a pretty stupid standpoint to take from the cable company's perspective. I think these are people that want that content and are willing to get it in different ways, and as you said, that's only going to grow and become more common as the ages of people who do that starts to rise.
Now, to be fair to Nielsen on that point, maybe it is stupid to call it zero TV when it's not actually zero TV, but they try to bend over backwards in the explanations that we don't mean zero video, and they actually have some charts on time spent in hours by age demographic. Most of it is done watching time-shifted TV. Others are doing DVDs or using a game console, and the internet on a computer. Let's see. I want to find the 2+ number. Is 4 hours and 44 minutes versus 34 hours a week on traditional TV. So the total amount of the entire survey audience is still watching traditional TV.
I think what's actually happening is, like, when television is introduced, it was this box that received signals, right? This is the only thing it would do, to the point where there'd be test patterns on, because you didn't have a use for this thing otherwise. And as this thing's matured, we've had more boxes attached to it, VCRs, so you can start recording your things. You got DVRs, you've got game consoles, to the point where we're thinking TVs aren't just this thing that get content. We can decide what we're watching at what time. I think that's really what's going on here, because there's a whole generation of kids growing up now that have no idea that you had to wait for something to show up at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, and that's the only time you'd ever be able to watch it, because there was no VCR, DVR, Hulu, or any of that stuff. So I'm thinking, I don't know if it's a sea change as much as it's an evolution as to what the television has become.
And Jeff, I don't know about you, or I as either one, but I have got to the point, even though I still actually have DirecTV, and we have it mostly because Eileen has a couple of shows that she wants to watch live, and that's the only way to watch them live. I find it kind of a hassle now to use DirecTV to record things. I forget. I got like, I got to manage a season pass and make sure it doesn't mess up, and only records first run episodes. I'd rather just go watch stuff directly by going to a Hulu or a Netflix and saying, like, type in the show, get the latest one, watch it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's definitely a first world problem, but I feel that weird pressure of my DVR filling up, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna delete something. I'm at 90% of my DVR. I better watch this stuff. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to set up the season pass for this show. I'm just gonna wait till it hits Netflix, watch it all in a chunk, and that's how I'll digest that awesome hour-long drama that I'm excited about. And I really only have cable for sports and live stuff that doesn't really work for, time-shifted viewing. And I think that that's going to be more and more common, and it certainly is how I live my life. And I've definitely had conversations with my girlfriend about, should we cut the cable? Is it and when it's not football season, I'm sort of like, I could cut the cable. So.
One of the oddball things I found is that since I use Hulu so much, that when I do find things on my DVR, I forget to skip commercials because I'm used to not being able to. And then I'm like, wait a second, I have control. I set this up. I can do something about it. So it's interesting. I think that people's behaviors will be modified, just like things have been already.
Poor us with our horrible hassles of having to manage a DVR.
Right.
It's so funny, but it is true. It's all relative, right? Let's talk a little bit about Google Glass. What did they show off to the folks in Austin?
Over at South by Southwest, there was a Project Glass developer panel, and Google's developer advocate Timothy Jordan was showing off apps for Google Glass. They showed some third-party apps, New York Times, Path, and Skitch. They also showed off Gmail and how that would work on Glass. Glass gets a configurable Gmail subscription that will push only important emails. You can see the subject line, the picture of the sender. You can dictate your response. And on the app's design, each Glass integration must abide by 4 principles. That's what they were saying here. Design for Glass, don't get in the way, keep it timely, and avoid the unexpected. This interface, to me, looks a lot like Google Now. It looks like that card interface we're used to, and I think it's being called Timeline Cards. Also, Google Now is making a bit of news today as it's showing up the latest RAW builds in the Chrome browser and Chrome OS. Now, Google Now isn't working in those builds yet, and it was found by Francois Beaufort. Google already added a new notification center in Chrome, the operating system, which looks like that card system as well. Google Now would work on Windows and Chrome OS, no Mac version, no release date. Jeff, what's more interesting to you, the Google Glass apps or Google Now on your desktop?
Google Glass. I'm so drinking the Kool-Aid on that. Although, did I hear it on your show, this idea that we might all end up cross-eyed by using it? That terrifies me.
I don't think that was us. Why? Because
No?
you're always looking at different parts
Because you're looking,
of the,
yeah, you're like, you're looking at the glass the whole time, and then you can't uncorrect your eyes after you take them off. So that scares me because I don't think there's been any long-term study on the use of a thing that's right here. But I think it's hilarious that one of the tenets of Google Glass is nothing unexpected. Because if the apps are unregulated like Android, I guarantee you there'll be the scare the S out of you app where you're just walking along and all of a sudden you're like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, ah, like they just scare you unexpectedly during your day, which will be hilarious.
What about you, Tom? You thinking Google Now more exciting on your desktop or scare the heck out of you?
Well,
apps
now I'm
on your,
frightened to
on
death.
your glass?
Thanks to what Jeff said.
Just like the little girl from The Ring like pops up in your view.
Oh, or what was that meme in like
It was the
2003
Screamers or something, or
where
what
they're
was
like,
it?
stare at this picture.
Right.
Do you
Oh,
see
yeah.
the
What
thing?
was that
And
called? It was the
yeah,
Screamers
the zombie
or-
pops up.
yeah.
You're gonna get that. That's gonna make a big comeback. Until this conversation, I was kind of like Jeff. I think Google Glass is the cooler thing, but I also think I'm gonna get Google Now sooner and not have to pay for it. And Google Now is pretty interesting. Like, I think that's more immediately going to impact my life because I use that on the Nexus 7 and it's pretty cool. I don't have an Android phone I carry around with me. My wife does though, and she's always showing it off like, oh, look, it knew that we were headed here and it gave me directions, and it's that's almost scarier in a way.
So when I was looking at these two stories, I'm starting to realize that Google's design language is starting to be very similar to itself. Now you have this actual cohesive, unified look. I'm kind of curious if Google Now is going to end up in Glass or Glass stuff's going to work in Google
sure.
Now.
Oh,
Because of
absolutely.
these
Makes
cards.
Totally.
And the other thing is, like, if they're building out all of these third-party applications, Google Now can get smarter with social networks like Path, the New York Times, and other things like that. So you have this like, hey, you might be interested in this story from your friend that mentioned it on this. Either it'll pop up in your eye,
right,
or in your browser.
And you choose the Ring theme for your Google Glass, and it's her telling you all of these.
And that's
things.
why you have to pay for the
There's great sandwiches at this place.
Could you? That's what I'm assuming this is about. Really, advertising. You don't want like the television style lower thirds that pop up and they're like dancing around when you're trying to understand that Starbucks is around the corner.
Right.
So that's probably what that's about. But I can't wait for these technologies to merge because as I was thinking about the Mirror API, it's just a mirror for these Google Now cards. So why not just see that?
Yeah, it does. I think that's a great point. It does seem like they've actually got a direction they're headed in. For all
Matthias
of these
Duarte,
things.
he loves the cards.
Yeah, they've realized how valuable the whole
to
Now initiative is, and they're following that for sure.
Let's take a quick break. Thank our sponsor, Gazelle. If you want to save some money for all of these gadgets that are coming in your future, or if you just want to get a new iPhone, new iPad, you want that Samsung Galaxy S4 that's coming out, maybe the HTC phone, maybe you want the Z10 because you live in Canada and that's how you say it. Any way you want to get some money, get rid of your old gadgets before you get the new one, or you don't even have to get rid of them before. Just lock in your quote. Gazelle will give you money for your old gadgets, and it's easy. You get paid in cash. Payment is fast within a few days of them receiving the item. You just go to Gazelle.com, get an offer, lock it in for 30 days. It's not going to get more valuable, right? It's probably going to get less valuable. So lock in that quote right now for your old device. Then you get the new one. Then you send the old one to Gazelle. Sometimes they'll even give you a box. And the offer is good for 30 days. You got 30 days to get them to them, and then you get paid cash when they get your old device. They'll even buy broken iPhones and iPads. What's your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphone worth? Go to Gazelle.com right now. Find out and sell your used iPhone or Samsung Galaxy smartphone today at Gazelle.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. All right, let's talk a little bit about Comixology. And it's not quite a disaster, but it wasn't good. As we mentioned, Marvel offered free digital copies of 700 #1 issues. They power the Marvel store, Comixology. So you were getting them in the Marvel store, but it affected Comixology servers, which actually affected other publishers. Image Comics did say to one publication, we did have a server crash. We couldn't sell things over the weekend. A lot of people couldn't download the issues they wanted. So Comixology CEO David Steinberger took to the blog, apologized, posted a sign-up form where you can give your email address. They'll notify you when there's updates. He says you will get the comics. They've put a pause on the free downloads for now while they figure this all out, but they intend to continue it. Jeff, is this just showing how digital comics are just exploding faster than anybody can tell, or should Comixology have known, hey, 700 number ones, we're going to get flooded here?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing to me was that I heard that the sale actually affected the SimCity servers. So that's pretty surprising. No.
Were they hosting them on the SimCity servers? Because that explains everything.
That's what it was, yeah. No, I think that is it hopefully is recognized by the powers that be that this is what people want. They want comics accessible, easy, on their digital devices, and with a low-cost subscription service that allows them to browse through large numbers of back issues and without having to individually navigate which titles they want. I think Marvel and DC both would be well suited to embrace that and recognize the demand. So I think this is ultimately going to be a very good thing for comics and for digital distribution of comics.
Ultimately, Marvel. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think that what's going on is we have enough tablets and these larger screen devices that digital comics make a lot more sense than they used to. Back when the first iPad came out, I saw it as a large display. I'm like, this could be great, but it was low res. So you're still going from panel to panel to panel versus seeing the full screen page as you wanted to see it. And as like even these small phones have 1920 by 1080 displays, while it'd be crazy to look at the full page on that small screen, it's a lot easier to read these things. So it's
a different experience too. It's kind of fun to have that you feel like you're watching a movie in a way.
When the first Slate PCs came out in 2002, I was excited for digital comics, and that just didn't take off because low res, bad batteries. I think this is just the technology and this whole thing actually maturing to the point where digital comic books make a lot of sense to people because there's no real need to go to a store. You can look at on your high res display, and it's almost the same, just not exactly, just slightly smaller.
So should Comixology have known better, though? I mean, do we point fingers at the IT department? Is actually a better question than that is this, as a lot of people are saying, that's the problem with the cloud. You're going to store your comics in the cloud. You're going to run into this. You're not going to be able to access the things you paid for. You don't actually own them.
I wouldn't go that far. I would think it's simply that this was, I don't think Comixology was even aware that this kind of thing would happen because the demand just wasn't there. But when you put a Marvel, 700 issues of these things, you put in a Marvel Comics, not like a smaller publisher, that's the kind of hit that we're going to take because Marvel's really good at promoting this stuff.
Yeah.
And now Disney owns them, so they're probably just throwing out sales all the time. So I think it's just, the fact that they used Marvel as this test might have been kind of a crazy idea.
Jeff, should they have bared a greater responsibility?
Perhaps. I think that this is sort of uncharted territory for them in a large sense, so I give them a bit of a pass. It's really telling. I mean, I visited Kansas City and saw the Google Fiber, and was so excited about what that is going to bring to us someday. But it really also shows how the adoption of digital distribution for everything is really outpacing the infrastructure for it, both from just an internet bandwidth standpoint and from server abilities for servers to keep up. And these companies that have decided, well, we can digitally distribute, whether it is EA with SimCity or Comixology, I think hopefully the next guys that are going to be doing this are learning from what's happening to all these companies who are like, oh, when we make it available to everyone at the same time, everyone might take advantage of it. So let's be prepared for that.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. This is just growing pains. I mean, Comixology has been around for, they've kind of paved the way with a few other people like Graphically out there that have been working on this sort of thing. So you got to expect along the way to have a few mistakes like this. How do you store your digital comics? Can you get digital Mylar?
Digital long boxes.
If only.
Digital long
boxes.
Vimeo, we all make videos here, put them on the internet. Vimeo would like us to make more money off them.
Yeah, Vimeo, the video sharing site, introduced Vimeo On Demand today. If you're a member of the Vimeo Pro service, you can sell your content or have it available for rental. You can set up the rental period from anywhere from 24 hours to 1 year, as well as set which countries can access it. Video is accessible online, on mobile devices, connected TV, set-top boxes. And the revenue split, Vimeo says that content makers are going to get 90%, but there are some fees. All Things D ran a scenario with Vimeo on a hypothetical $4.99 sale, and the content maker would end up with about 84% of the gross, which is still pretty good. The Vimeo Pro service is open to anyone, so it's not just closed off. You have to pay $200 a year for it, though. The first video using the service is a film called It's a Beautiful Day. That rental will cost you $2 or $6 for purchase.
Isn't that a Windows ad?
I'm not sure. But Jeff, do you think Vimeo's new service is going to grab a lot more independent content producers? Are they going to steal away some YouTube talent?
Yeah, I believe they will. I think this is really exciting from a content producer standpoint. I mean, here we are making shows on a network that is ad supported, and that's fantastic and awesome. And I know people don't like paying for their content, but the ad support model is really difficult to maintain on such a broad base of people creating content. And I suspect that if this takes off, we're going to see free services like YouTube sort of return to being a little bit of the ghetto of content, and you'll get the really high-end, top tier kind of content over at a pay service. And I don't know if that's better for the consumer or not, but it certainly makes it easier to try to make money from your content.
It's funny that you say that. I would think of YouTube turning more like the broadcast networks and Vimeo being more like IFC.
Yeah.
Because they're getting a lot more independent, artsy things, and Vimeo has never been about dogs on skateboards. But YouTube is making a huge shift. What do you think, Tom?
Well, no, I kind of think you're both right, because what Jeff's saying is already sort of correct, and you're pointing that out, is that Vimeo is sort of the higher brow. And even if YouTube comes along and puts in place a pay system, I think people's perceptions are just going to be such that if they ask you to pay $5 for a documentary on YouTube, you're just going to be like, I don't know if I want to pay on YouTube. Whereas if you go to Vimeo and they say, you want to pay $5 for this documentary, you'll think, oh, score. Vimeo always has really, really high quality stuff. Like, it's a perception in the marketplace that I think works a little bit in Vimeo's favor.
And Vimeo's always been quite forward when it comes to the technologies they've had. I think they were one of the first to have 1080p streaming video way before YouTube even introduced that. I think they've had some really powerful tools. I know from my own independent podcast, I looked at Vimeo seriously for a very long time, and they have a lot of customization that you just don't get at YouTube. Plus, you don't have to go through some like rigorous process to be a partner. The old days of YouTube, paying $200 gets you in.
How much are people going to want to pay, though, Jeff?
That's the question. That's the real question. And I know that we've conditioned a whole generation of people to get stuff for free, and that's great. I love getting stuff for free. I like making stuff that people can see for free. But at a certain point, with the amount of people in the marketplace, the ad model it kind of collapses under the weight of itself, and people who want to be able to do this for a living need to find a revenue stream. So I think you're absolutely right that Vimeo differentiating itself and being high end and kind of not allowing the hits to the nuts videos, it really does them well to make an alternative to that kind of thing and feel like, oh, I'm coming to this place because I want to sit down and watch something,
Unless it's a really artistic hit to the nuts, then
well, of course.
But good stuff in the chat room here. Padre SJ points out that there is a convenience factor that YouTube has because of Google Wallet, which already has your information. You may trust them a little more. And also Ken from Chicago points out there's a lot more eyeballs on YouTube. iSting points out that I didn't say in my disclaimer that my wife works for YouTube, but that doesn't give me any inside knowledge. She didn't tell me anything. So there you go.
I'm just excited about Vimeo's tools. I mean, like I was saying, I think that people are going to go to Vimeo. I think it's probably going to work a lot better for constant content producers. If you're going to have a freemium model, like I'm going to introduce this series, and then this episode will cost you a little extra. But if you're doing this as a filmmaker, I have a hard time understanding that. Maybe the trailer's free, and then you're like, okay, I'll pay $1 to watch it for a day, $6 to own it, maybe that kind of thing. Because I really like the idea of the variable rental window from 1 day to 1 year. That seems like a long time to test out something.
I want freemium beer. You can drink like half the can, and then if you want to finish the can,
watch an ad.
You just pay a little more. Who's drinking canned beer anymore? Come on.
Hipsters.
Let's finish up with the GigaOM report on Automatic's new product. It's called The Link from Jordan Novitt and Jerry Jariasanat. Jordan Novitt was the reporter from GigaOM. It's Jerry Jariasanat and Lyuba Milikovic who are putting together a device, I know, that plugs into the diagnostic port below your steering wheel. This looks like it's going to become a little playground for people to create stuff. I didn't realize how much you could get out of that plug. A lot of people don't even realize that plug even exists. But you can plug this device in. It's Bluetooth, connects to an iPhone app that'll be free, and there's an Android app that's going to follow, and it tracks your behavior. It'll beep and alert you when you're doing things that are wasting gas. To try to get you to drive more efficiently. You do rough stops, you do fast acceleration. It's going to beep to kind of help train you. And then it tracks the cost of every mile you drive based on average gas prices. Does things like explains when your check engine light comes on, why it's coming on, even gives you the ability to turn it off once you've seen it. And it remembers your parking spot. So if you park, you've got this thing plugged into the drive, you can look on your app and it'll say you're parked over there. That's probably the most useful thing on here. You can pre-order it now for $70. And I didn't realize this, but there's a product from Verizon called the Verizon Delphi, which isn't out yet, but it's similar. It doesn't do the alert thing to help you change your gas efficiency. It's focused more on maintenance and that check engine light information. But this is pretty crazy. Are we going to see a boatload of these kinds of devices?
I mean, this seems like this is to fix, like this is like to retrofit your car with technology, right? Because the cars nowadays have a lot more gauges and have a lot more information. Some of these cars, I think from GM, they're working with other companies to have connected cars. I think AT&T and GM are working together via OnStar. I think this is to make your older car better, and you can have this information, this diagnostic info that's always available from that OBD2 sensor. That's always there. This is the thing. If you ever go into your mechanic shop and they see something being connected under your steering column, that's what that is.
They're not hot wiring your car.
No. They're using this standard thing that's been there, I think, since 96. When I was, if you guys didn't know, I actually went to technical school for auto repair.
What didn't you do? Lawyer, technical school?
I didn't. I don't know what I haven't done yet. I guess I'll find out. But that thing is how you find out what's going wrong with your car. And when you have something silly that's broken, like, oh, your check engine light's on because you didn't screw on your gas cap tight enough, you should be able to turn it off with something like this. And I think with apps, people are much more likely to use a device like this to go, oh, yeah, I know how to use apps. I can do this, because the old way was like you would go to a specialized part and you'd have this like very archaic style of interface. This, I think, makes everything much easier for the common consumer.
A few people in the chat room are saying there's tons of devices like this out there. They just don't get a lot of attention. Jeff, does this get you excited? You want to start plugging things into your ODB port?
Well, I have to do my own.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, hey, I have to do my own little disclaimer, because one of the guys who helped develop this is a Twitter buddy of mine.
Oh, cool.
And so he gave me a kind of an early peek at it, and I'm really excited about it. I'm pre-ordering one for my girlfriend. The parking spot thing alone for me is worth $70. The amount of times that I forget where I parked, and you don't have to check in; it just automatically remembers where your parking spot is. And the other thing you didn't mention is that if you get in a car accident, you can set it up to automatically alert 3 people that you know that you've been in an accident, or have it automatically call 911 for you, which is pretty cool. I had no idea that it was so easy to install this kind of thing in cars after 1996. Like, it's super easy, and it looks pretty neat. I like this idea of retrofitting and making my smartphone connect to things that I didn't think it could connect to.
All the car hacks you can do with that port.
Yeah.
Speed limiters you can take off. All kinds of things you can do.
Know-how. You got there's like a boatload of know-how episodes.
I'm going to need a car.
Yeah.
A carload.
Let's get Twit to
Just
pay.
expense a car and
Sure, no problem. I got a great idea now.
see what's on the randomizer. This one's been kicking around for a couple of days, but a lot of folks on the subreddit were into it. A book is out in Japan called Convert Anything to Calories, and one of the ways they're getting attention to it is one of the things they converted was the mouse click. Here's the science, folks. On average, 16.7 micromoles of ATP, that's adenosine triphosphate, are consumed in moving 1 gram of muscle for 1 second. So the total amount of ATP burned to move 11.7 grams of muscle in the index finger is approximately 195 micromoles. There are 7.3 calories in 1 mole of ATP energy. So the number of calories burned in clicking your mouse is 1.42.
Wow.
And that was by the numbers.
Sure was.
That's why everyone who plays Diablo 3 is svelte.
Right, because there's so much damn clicking in that game. It just okay. So if we're supposed to burn, I think on average, men are supposed to burn 2,000 calories a day. We would have to click 1,408 times, or a typical Diablo 3 session.
It's an interesting thing, especially when we're moving to touch screens and trackpads. So this is great. Antiquated data, Tom. Who uses a mouse anyway? Gamers? Really? This is like, it's going to eat a lot of... I mean, this is
You
like,
don't play games.
This is like 1 Cheeto.
Yeah.
No, you have to do it 100 times. You have to click 100 times, or 71
Only
times.
1,197 for women to burn 1,700 calories. Yeah, no, this is just silly, but
It's good to know that
actually larger than I thought, to be honest.
1.4 is not bad. It's like chewing gum.
Let's take a quick break. I'll burn some calories and tell you about ShareFile. I've been using it recently, and let me tell you why. Most business emails include some sort of attachment these days. You got documents, you got spreadsheets, you got PowerPoints, contracts. You don't want those contracts just flipping around on the internet where anybody can see them. You need that information to be received. You want to make sure people read it, and you want it to get it in the right hands. You want it to stay confidential, but it doesn't always. That's why ShareFile is important to every business. ShareFile by Citrix sends your attachments as secure links so you can send files of almost any size with the highest degree of security and receive notifications when they're opened. So you know, oh, at least, I don't know if he read it, but he definitely opened it. ShareFile is easy to use and integrates into any business. Plus, with ShareFile, you can access files from anywhere, your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone. I highly recommend ShareFile. I've been using it with my tax accountant. She's, you know, like, did you get this form? Did you get this W-2? I don't want to just send those things out on the open internet, so I put them in ShareFile. That way, not only do I make sure they're confidential and secure, but I know she got them. She can't say, like, no, you didn't send it. I didn't see it. No, you got it. I saw you opened the file. You'll see why millions of professionals rely on it every day. Try our free trial right now. Get started today with our special 30-day free trial. Go to sharefile.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and enter TNT. That's sharefile.com, and type in TNT. It's a perfect time of year to be using this sort of thing, and we thank Citrix and ShareFile for their support of Tech News Today. What's on the calendar, Sarah?
Well,
Tom. All right, no, I won't do that. But by the way, folks who have the Sony Xperia TL, you're getting Android 4.1 today. Congratulations.
You.
Jelly beans
guy.
for all.
Also, Android fans, Jason, are you excited? Google I/O registration begins tomorrow, March 13th at 7 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, a little bit excited. Yeah.
Make sure you got your Google Plus and your Google Wallet accounts in order because you're going to need those for the 0.2 microseconds that registration will be available before it sells out.
click fast. Burn calories.
Yeah, it burns up a
It's too bad Google Now isn't integrated to get you easy access to these tickets.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got a message from RJ. He says, hello, TNT crew. I think that the TiVo Mini is a great idea, but a bit overpriced. The main feature of the Mini is that it lets you watch live TV using a tuner on a TiVo Premiere 4. This means you can eliminate a cable box, plus be able to watch shows recorded on the TiVo. Comcast currently charges me $9.95 a month for each cable box, so if I replace the cable box in the bedroom with the Mini, with lifetime support, $250, it'll pay for itself in a little over 2 years. The Mini also supports On Demand for Comcast. Unfortunately, I own an older TiVo HD XL, so I'll need to replace my TiVo with the Premiere 4 before I can use a Mini. I think the price point for the Mini with lifetime support should be $150, maybe as high as $199. TiVo could also offer bundle discounts of a Premiere 4 and a Mini to get people to upgrade their TiVo. Maybe offer free lifetime support on the Mini if you buy it with a TiVo Premiere 4 or Premiere XL 4. Love the show. Tom, you're already laughing.
I am, because, well, I get RJ's logic is sound if you're comparing just Comcast and his situation to what TiVo offers, right? his math is right. It would be cheaper to do it this way, but it would be even cheaper to just create your own extender. And TiVo's Linux, you can send that signal into the other room for absolutely free, just a little sweat equity.
Yeah, but isn't this the reason why we all hate our DVRs? Because the interface on TiVo is better? What do you think, Jeff?
Yes. I agree with you. That's why we hate our DVRs. I had TiVo back in the day and loved it, and I wish I could go back to it. But I'm stuck with the DVR from my cable company, and I could, as you said, I could sweat equity it. But I can't be bothered, sadly.
No, I know. Neither could I. I say that, right? I say, oh, you just put in the time. Tom, are you going to? No, I'm not going to put in the time. That's always the way it is. Although XBMC interface is very nice if you do have the
patience,
gumption and patience and time to put in. Chris from Cleveland wrote in, concerned about the purported 13-megapixel camera in the Galaxy S4. He says, wait a minute. Are you worried about storage with a 13-megapixel camera? I mean, it's all about the sensor. It's supposed to be better pictures. These 13-megapixel shots are just going to take up all the space on your phone. I laugh a little bit, but he's kind of got a point. I mean, there's an SD card slot, so you can store your photos on that. But
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
SD card slot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that and turn off the Dropbox automatic upload for cellular, because you're going to eat up that data really fast.
No kidding. All right, well, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Jeff Canada, pleasure as always. Plug that Kickstarter again. Let folks know about Always On, what you're up to, where they can find you online.
Yeah, you can check out my Kickstarter if you look for my name, Jeff Canada. That's with 2 N's and 1 T. And you can also see it jeffcanada.com. We're trying to get up the number of backers. That's what the goal is. So even a $1 donation would be awesome. In fact, I think Molly and I are doing a live premiere of the new Always On episode in like 10 minutes.
Oh,
so
sweet.
You can check that out.
Excellent.
It's over at CNET live, cnet.com/alwayson.
CNET.com/alwayson. Cool. I'm excited about both those shows, frankly. Folks, don't forget about our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. Place to let us know what stories you would like us to cover on the show. We take a look at that. A Marvel story right there at the top. It's one of the reasons we turned it into a discussion story. You can also find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us tnt@twit.tv and give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Barring Pitbull abducting Sarah in Miami or something, she'll be back on the show tomorrow, along with Dan Patterson as our guest. We'll see you then.